let's go to the final team here, UCLA. This is the team that has the most prospects out of all of these teams. It's also the team I've been least impressed with out of this group. I'll be honest. I'm very skeptical Amari Bailey is a one and done at this point.
I don't even know if skeptical is the right word. Like, he's not a one and done. I think UCLA is going to find some struggles in trying to even keep him on the court in big games and in big moments, because he's just not ready to play that scalable off-ball role that the Bruins are going to need when you have guys like Jaime Jaquez and Tiger Campbell who can really run the show for a college offense.
I think you're right about that. This team looks better when David Singleton is in.
Yes.
Like, they run the two-man game with Tiger Campbell and Jaime Jaquez. You have Adem Bona or Kenny Wuba in the dunker spot. And then you have Jaylen Clark out there because Jaylen Clark is awesome. We're going to talk about Jaylen Clark in a minute. But I think they run a little bit better when David Singleton's out there right now. And that's not a statement that David Singleton at 23 years old is a better long-term prospect than Amari Bailey. It's that 23-year-old David Singleton is better than 18-year-old, because I believe he's pretty young for his class, Amari Bailey. Better than Amari Bailey right now, because he's just a little bit more developed and he's a way better shooter. That's the big thing.
Yeah.
I think Amari is okay as like a secondary ball handler. He hasn't really struggled as much with like turning the ball over or getting too big for his shoes, like making bad decisions. It's just that, like, if he handles the ball and doesn't lose it, there's no final product right now. Like, he doesn't really have great passing ability to be able to make that high level read. And then he's just not a scorer at this level in the half court right now, because he doesn't shoot it well enough and he's not explosive enough at the rim in the half court. So yeah, I mean, I think we're going to see some real moments where UCLA goes to guys like Dylan Andrews, goes to guys like certainly David Singleton in big moments over Amari Bailey, who only played 21 minutes in the second game against Baylor today.
Yeah, and had no field goals in 29 minutes against Illinois on Friday. The challenge with Bailey, it's kind of the same thing that we saw last year with Peyton Watson in some regard, of like talented player, good prospect in many, many ways. But this is a team in UCLA that has an urgency to win games now, has a ton of veterans that they can go to and plug into different lineups and positions there. And all that they need around Campbell and Jaquez are scalable off-ball players. And if you're a young guy that's used to dominating or playing with the ball in your hands and you struggle to adjust to that role, you're just going to take a back seat. I'm not ready to jump off of the Amari Bailey bandwagon in terms of long-term upside of being an NBA player. But I think he's going to have a really difficult time proving that he should be a one-and-done type of prospect that gets drafted in the top 40. He's just not going to have the data, the amount of reps that he needs in different areas to show scouts what he can do. And that's the right thing for Mick Cronin and for UCLA. That's all that they need to care about, is winning games and maximizing a pretty special group that they can have with Tiger Campbell and Jaime Jaquez.
Yeah, I agree. Adem Bona played 14 minutes against Baylor. Struggled with foul trouble against Illinois as well. Did get 21 minutes in that game. Another guy that just I thought was like not impressive at all. And this is a guy that I'd been told preseason looks like a one and done. Everything that they saw at UCLA, he looked absolutely terrific. Let's just start with like a base level thing. Like, I don't think his hands are good enough right now. Like, I don't trust him to catch the ball.
Yeah, and his touch near the basket was disappointing, that when he would catch it on the interior and have an opportunity to make a move, just one strong, turnover, his left shoulder with a right hand baby hook or a little lay-in, he just was kind of missing those easy opportunities. And on a veteran team, I know I'm going to say this ad nauseum when we talk about UCLA, if you're a young guy, your role is to come in and make the simple plays that those experienced and really good players kind of gift wrap for you. And Bona's inability to catch basketballs, to finish near the basket, it's going to play him off the floor in some regards. Like, we've seen him struggle to to stay on the floor this weekend, despite playing good minutes and having some solid flashes against those lower major teams on the earlier parts of their schedule. Because when push comes to shove, you need reliable guys that you can trust to at least know what they're going to give you. And right now, Bona is all upside but no polish, and that doesn't help you win games in the second half.
Well, and here's what I would say, though, about Bona. He's going to get much more runway than what Amari Bailey is, because UCLA just doesn't have anything behind him. Like,
that's right.
All due respect to Kenny Wuba, who, like, honestly, I thought was probably more effective than Bona was in the Baylor game. I would anticipate by the end of the year, Adem Bona is the better player than Kenny Wuba. This was a rough one. It was a rough weekend for the UCLA prospects, but it was not a rough weekend for the Jaylen Clark agenda, which you and I have been preaching for a while. Jaylen Clark, he had 23 points against UCLA. He had 10 rebounds. He had 1 billion deflections in their first game, estimating ballpark, approximately 1 billion deflections against Illinois. He gave up 29 points to Terrence Shannon. It had nothing to do with him. I mean, it had a little bit to do with him, because I think there is one thing that concerns me in terms of him being an NBA player, given the role that he will have. Oh my goodness, do I love Jaylen Clark. I absolutely love him. I think that his ability to play without the ball is so scalable to the NBA in such a substantial way. He just really needs to improve 2 specific things. But I'll give you the floor, because I know that you also love Jaylen Clark as much as I do.
He's a coach's dream, Sam. You love guys that do all of the little things and are really, really smart basketball players. And that's just who he is and kind of who he's been since day one. It's why he's earned a role on the UCLA team, despite not being a fantastic off-ball threat consistently. And he's getting a lot better as a shooter. I know that's something we'll talk about here. He's so freaking good on the defensive end of the floor. His anticipatory skills at just knowing when a reversal pass on the perimeter is coming is outstanding, because he uses his length, his anticipation. He gets into passing lanes and creates those deflections or steals, what I call pick sixes, going the other way. Really quick hands on ball. He's an incredibly smart cutter on the offensive end of the floor, which is why he's able to play off ball and not necessarily be a ball dominant guy. It's the jump shot for me. I don't know what to really make of the shooting. He had a really strong start to the year. And then in today's game, like, he had a bad air ball, and there's just moments where the touch doesn't seem to always be there consistently for him. But when he does enough of the little things and he never's turning that off when he's on the floor, you're going to want to make an investment in a guy like him. Like, he is, if he doesn't end up being a top 45 type of guy, the first person I'm instructing my boss to call his agent for a 2-way signing and getting him into our training camp, because he's just going to make our team better by being there.
So I think I don't know if I feel this way yet, but I'm pretty close to the point where I think he's a better prospect than Jaime Jaquez.
Oh,
and the reason for that, and I love Jaime Jaquez.
Yeah.
I think he's terrific. Jalen's defense translates to the NBA in a way that I worry a little bit about Jaime's translating.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Jalen's defense, in terms of being able to slide and stay in front of literally anybody in terms of like a perimeter player. He's 6'7" and can guard like point guards easily, like has zero issues staying in front of point guards. His hand-eye coordination is staggering.
Absurd.
It is unbelievable. He gets his hands into every action without fouling. He is so disruptive. He's disrupting dribble handoffs. He's disrupting, drives with digs down onto ball handlers. He's disrupting everything that you do offensively when he's out there on the court. The one thing that I worry about with him in terms of the role that he has to play outside of the shooting, which I agree with you. I actually don't really think he can shoot right now. I know that he started well. Yeah. I'm worried about the shooting enough to where I would say, like, I would call him maybe not a non-shooter, but not a guy that if I was scouting, I would tell my players, like, hey, you need to close out on him. Like, I would not say that. The thing that worries me is there were a couple of moments against Illinois where you could see Terrence Shannon get downhill and really be able to bump him off the ball. And his strength physically, given the role he's going to have to play defensively at the NBA level, he needs to get stronger. That's actually like kind of the number one thing for me, even more than the shooting. If he's going to be a defense first guy in the way that I think he can be a defense first guy, I think he's going to be in the mix for like National Defensive Player of the Year this year. I think he's that good defensively.
Mm-hmm.
For him to be the kind of defender that he needs to be on the offensive or on the defensive side of the floor in the NBA, he has to get stronger because he can't take these bumps from Terrence Shannon and fly way off the ball. Because imagine what happens when it's Luka Doncic. Imagine what happens when it's, any number of high level wings, Paul George, even like a skinnier guy that is strong enough to bump him off the ball in a pretty substantial way, I think. So that's where I'm at. Like he needs that. He can be a great defender of guards, but then you're more like Alonzo G versus like, a super high level impactful defensive player.
Alonzo G. I was not expecting to hear that name tonight, Sam.
Do you remember the Alonzo G hype train for the Cavs? That was
do.
You got a 3-year, $10 million deal.
Oh, we loved Alonzo G. A lot better than Alonzo F. Sorry.
He was always better, though, at defending guards, was the thing. He struggled with wings, was great at defending guards. That's where Jaylen Clark, I think, has to really take that next step. It's just in terms of physical strength.